Hello everybody, welcome to Kubernetes from Scratch Part 2. In Part 1 we provisioned a VM on a hypervisor, installed Ubuntu 19.10, and used micro Kubernetes to provision a very basic Kubernetes installation. We are going to add a few services to that and make it a little bit more interesting for everybody. The very first thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to be connecting to this VM through SSH, simply because we'll have access to copy and paste, which we don't have on most virtualization solutions. So the way that we can get that is we can use the IP command, hit space and A, and that will give us our addresses. And the very first address that we have here, 192.168.2.73, at least on my installation, is what we are looking for. So that's the IP address we want to connect to, and we are going to use MEGA.NZ here, which I recommended in the previous video, and we are going to connect via SSH. And this is the password that we used in the first video in the installation. And now we can actually see a little bit more of what's going on here. Full screen this for you. So our very first step, we are actually going to have a couple of helper scripts that are going to make this a little bit easier. So there's going to be a link here in the comment section of the YouTube video that will allow you to download this folder here. And pretty simply, we're just going to download it, and in MEGA.NZ we can use this little button here to upload that folder. We can use ls, and we can see it in there. Now we are going to have to install the unzip utility. But no major pain there, it's a sudo apt install unzip. Then we can unzip the cube demo, and we have our cube demo folder. Alright, now what we're going to be doing today is going to be using micro Kubernetes enable to actually add in role-based access control, RBAC. And this is going to allow us to safely use the Kubernetes dashboard. And the very first thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to apply our first YAML files. It's yet another markup language is what that stands for. And to do that, we're going to use micro Kubernetes kube control apply-f for file. And the first thing we want to do is add the admin user. And that's what this YAML file will do. And then we are going to add in the cluster resource binding, CRB, and that will allow us to actually log into the dashboard. So the very first thing that we need to do to get to our dashboard, quite simply, is we need to run this little script that we have here that I wrote for you guys. It is called dashboardaccess.sh. First thing we're going to need to do to run that is we're going to need to set the execute permission so that we can actually run it. And then you can type /dashboard, hit tab, and it will actually bind the access token that we need, and you'll copy that. And now we can Look here, we are running on the local external port of 10,443. So we can open up a web browser from anywhere on our network. Go https://192.168.2.73:10443. Of course, that'll be different for everybody, and then you'll bypass the security checks, and we'll paste that token in here after clicking this button. And that will bring us to the Kubernetes dashboard. And now we are outside of Linux land, and we are inside Kubernetes. From here we have visibility over pretty much everything that we could imagine. We can see our individual resources for the actual node that we have installed. We can see all of the different pods, which are akin to Docker containers, and their stacks of information. The metrics server that we installed actually uses Heapster to display these, and we can see we have persistent volumes, so we can actually store data on this and run stateful systems like databases and content management systems, things of that nature. And Kubernetes works on a couple of different principles. The main one is being namespaces. So for the kube system, we have all the actual system pods, including the core DNS, metric server that we talked about, the dashboard server, which is running all this, the metric scraper, Heapster, which takes everything from the metric scraper and metric server and actually displays it inside of our dashboard. And we can start having a little bit of fun with this. The default namespace, of course, is where you're probably going to be launching everything at. And we can click this little plus up here and go to Create From. Now we're just going to make a real simple test application called Test. And we want to run an nginx web server, and the container image is nginx, and that will pull right from the Docker repos. We're going to make an external service so that we can reach it from outside of our Kubernetes installation. And it serves on port 80, and we want to be able to reach it on port 80. We'll click Deploy, and we'll wait for this little indicator here to turn into a green check mark. And we have deployed our very first Kubernetes pod. And when we made that service, we actually, what we did was we used metallb to provision a virtual IP address that the node that we've installed in our VM will listen on. So we can go to 10.0.30, that's the wrong IP range. But that will actually open up all of our ports to the outside world. Of course, now I can show you guys a little bit of how to overcome some catastrophic mess ups. We'll go over to the metallb system, and we're going to look in our config maps, config, and we can actually edit this so that it is the proper IP space, and that will be 192.168.2.150 to 192.168.2.155, and we will update that. And if we are super lucky, we'll actually be able to use this. easiest way to go about this is going to be to actually go into MOBA-X term, start a second terminal, can actually remove that metallb, and then we can re-enable it here in a second. And that will let us remake it. For the proper IP space. Now we're back in action. We'll try that one more time for you guys. Go ahead and delete this. Actually, it has already fixed that for us. Okay, so that's gone. We'll just do that again. So we will make this in test. Container image is nginx. External service port 80 to port 80. And one thing that we didn't do last time around is change our namespace. So we're going to put that in default and click deploy. And here we have our nginx server listening on a virtual IP address. So that is, yeah, that's the basics of that. There's of course a million other ways to go about doing things. You can write these YAML files yourself, so we could actually go over to this deployment and see all of the different features that we can add in here and mess with ourselves. Now the fun thing about Kubernetes is we can scale this up. So we can click up here and scale this to 2 pods, at which point it's going to automatically drive the cluster to 2 available nginx pods, and it will load balance between the 2 of them as we refresh the page. Hope you will have learned a few things here, and I hope that you will stick around for the next video, part 3, where we're going to learn how to inspect these pods and do a couple of other things with them, and use Helm to install a what's referred to as a package. Have a nice day.